does it involve following the constitution? Like
Following the constitution?
Yeah, because after the Punjab and KP governments got dissolved, you're supposed to hold elections in 90 days. Why haven't we held elections yet?
I'm joining you. Shall I? First of all, I have come across so many people that like I am the product of a putsch, a forceful takeover of a government. I feel like I'm a product of a military takeover and I had to respond to such challenging question. In fact, I am the product of a constitutional order, which you are referring to. There was a leader of the House in an assembly, which was probably elected by all of you, or many of you, and there was a leader of opposition, which was, again, elected by many of you. There would be many questions and views about the individuals, but this is what Constitution refers to as a procedure. They agreed on my name and I am so-called product of that constitutional order. So at least we are interacting in a civil, normal and constitutional manner. There is nothing unconstitutional about it. When will be the elections? The outgoing parliament, they have passed a law. A law, many of students here probably would be the graduates of law, that the election dates would be announced by the Election Commission of Pakistan. And I am the caretaker Prime Minister, I am not the Chief Election Commissioner. That is part of the problem. If I had the dual role, by the end of this conversation, I would have given you a date. As it is not in my mandate, all I can do, or our government can do, that we have to assist that role, provide the financial assistance, the security, and others. And once that requirement is asked of us, I can assure you that we will fulfill our duty. KP and Punjab's election was prior to our coming. And I can only refer to that there is an article which is 254 in Constitution also. And that says that if something is late, does not make it unconstitutional. So whenever you go and find out it in the Constitution, there is an article 254. Yes, I'm sure it's 254. Go through that. Unfortunately, sometime if due to circumstances, any act, if it is late for certain reason, does not make it unconstitutional just on the basis that it has happened late. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, and it's an honor and privilege to have you in front of us. My question stems from the previous question, which was on the election date. But when you look at the election process, what measures would you as a caretaker government be taking to avoid all the unconstitutional or any external undemocratic factors intervening into the electoral process, which we have been observing throughout the history of Pakistan? And from that, I would use the example of the recent elections which just happened in Karachi, where PTI and Jamaat-e-Islami collectively, they won a majority. But I don't know what happened. सारे लोग मई की मजम्मत करते हैं, लेकिन PTI वाले सारे गायब हो गए मेयर चूज करने से पहले, और करते कराते इवेंचुअली आई थिंक PP का ही चेयर बना था. PP का एक चेयरमैन मेयर इलेक्ट हुआ था. I see this happening on a larger scale as well, and yeah, you as a caretaker government, I think, can have an impact on regulating the election commissioner. So over to you.
Once we are done with the clapping part, I'll start. Look, let's have an honest conversation rather than a clever one. Okay? And I want all of you to think in an honest manner. Pakistan is a transitional democracy. What is a transitional democracy? It's a subject which is taught in many universities around the world. We are not a settled democracy. There was a democracy in the Europe. It has taken its own shape, where it morphed from dictatorship to civilian supremacy, and it took them few centuries. It was not that easy journey. We want to have it a bit easy way, just having few conversation here in the halls and get all those subtle questions which is related to political power, economic power, and social power. There are two instances in history. One is called French Revolution and the other is called Glorious Revolution, which was in the case of James I, who fled, and the power was transformed from the monarchy to the parliament in English case. This was called Glorious Revolution because it was bloodless. And the other one, I'm sure you are aware of the guillotines and the rest of the experiments related to that. And it was a bit gory and ugly. When you want to have a transitional democracy morphed into a settled democracy, there has to be a process. First of all, we are a transitional democracy. We are not a settled democracy. All the PTI or the pro-PTI people are talking about the democratic reforms, electoral reforms, post ouster of PTI's government. Prior to that, you do not see that narrative coming from their cadre and their leadership. As you refer to a situation where the outcome was for the favor of a PPP candidate, do you remember what happened with the Chairman Senate? Who did it? Well, just forget it. Who did it? All of you know. All of you know. I was also part of it. But what I am referring over here is that if we start to cherry picking and we want to rationalize a narrative, we will never reach that destination. We need to settle on certain principles. And those principles should be beyond political parties. It should be for the greater social order. It may sometimes suit PPP, it may suit sometime PMLN, it may suit sometime PTI or JUI for that matter. So we have to be very cautious when we design principles. That's why laws, when they are meant or when they are made, we need to think them through. Unfortunately, what happens in the parliament, I've been part of the parliament, that the different leadership of different political parties, they agree on it and they pass it on to their members, and we are just there to sign and put our thumbs on that. No one discusses the law either on the floor of the parliament or outside the parliament or even in media. How many times you have seen talk shows on any coming legislation? Just raise your hand. How many of you have seen? I can beg, not a single time. Not a single time. Can you have a honest conversation about shaping up the political positions and view in such a milieu? All you have that you pick 2 or 3 individuals and encourage them and ignite them to have a dog fight. And the rest of us, we enjoy. And this is the level, and we have turned our tastes for such a consumption of information. And this is part of the tragedy. I wish we had informed discourse like the one we are having right now. What's the problem with that 24-inch screen? Why can't it provide such informed discourse? Why? All they have to do, they have to bring a guy from PTI, a guy from PMLN, and a guy from PPP, and encourage them to have a dog fight, and we will be just cooking during that time or having coffee and enjoying, and then next morning suddenly WhatsApp to each other, उसने उसकी पिटाई की, उसने उसको मारा, उसने उसको गाली. This has become part of political and social culture. Ooh, don't give me an opportunity to refer to the conversation on X, previously Twitter.